SpaceX controls a market position that most companies never reach. They own the launch pad, they own the rocket, they own the satellite network, and as of February 2nd, 2026, they own the intelligence layer too. The number that hit the news was $1.25 trillion. That is the combined value of SpaceX after absorbing xAI. It makes it the most valuable private company on Earth. But the number is just a label. The real story is about what happens when you put rockets, internet, and artificial intelligence under one roof. It changes the way the game is played. You have seen big mergers before. Usually they are just money moving around. This one is different. It is an engineering answer to a physical problem. The problem is simple. Artificial intelligence burns power. It burns a lot of it. Training a big model is like running a small city. You need electricity every second of the day. You need water to keep the computers cool. On Earth, those things are getting hard to find. Power grids are full. Towns do not want more power lines. Water permits take years. That is the wall the industry hit in late 2025. You could have all the money in the world, but if you cannot plug in your servers, you stop growing. SpaceX looked at that wall and decided to go around it. In space, the sun shines almost all the time. There are no clouds. There is no nighttime for a satellite in the right orbit. That means steady power. In space, it is also very cold. You do not need water to cool down. You can just radiate the heat away. The physics work better up there. This deal happened because SpaceX already had the parts to make that work. They have Starship to lift heavy computers. They have Starlink to move the data back to Earth. And now they have xAI to build the brains. It is a complete system. Before this deal, these were separate pieces. Now they are one machine. Let's look at the money for a minute. It explains why this had to happen fast. xAI was spending about $1 billion every month. That is a hard number to wrap your head around. It pays for chips. It pays for power. It pays for talent. But xAI did not have steady income yet. It was burning cash to build a future product. That is a dangerous place to be. If investors get scared, the money stops. SpaceX is different. SpaceX makes money. They launch rockets for NASA. They launch satellites for other countries. And most importantly, they have Starlink. Millions of people pay for Starlink every month. That is steady cash. It comes in rain or shine. By merging, that steady cash now supports the AI work. It stops the panic. It buys time to build. This is where the strategy gets interesting. When you own the whole chain, you can move faster. Think about how data moves today. It goes from your phone to a cell tower, then to a fiber cable, then to a data center, then back again. That takes time. Starlink changes the path. It uses lasers to shoot data between satellites. Light moves fast in a vacuum, faster than in glass cables. SpaceX has over 9,000 satellites in orbit right now. They recently upgraded the laser links to push massive amounts of data, 1 terabit per second. That is not a typo. It is a pipe big enough to handle global traffic. Now imagine putting the AI computer right next to that laser. The data does not have to go down to Earth to be processed. It can happen in orbit. The answer comes back instantly. That cuts out the delay. For things like self-driving cars or robots, that delay matters. A split second is the difference between stopping and crashing. By moving the compute to the network, SpaceX tightens the loop. This brings us to the valuation. $1 trillion for SpaceX, $250 billion for xAI. Put them together and you get the $1.25 trillion number. But the market is not just adding two numbers, it is pricing in a monopoly on infrastructure. No other company has this setup. Some have AI, some have satellites, some have rockets. Nobody has all three. That gap is what investors are looking at. It is a moat made of steel and physics. If a competitor wants to catch up, they have to build a rocket that works. Then they have to launch thousands of satellites. Then they have to build a top-tier AI model. That takes years. maybe decades. SpaceX is doing it today. You already know that markets reward systems that work. SpaceX has a history of making hard things look normal. Remember reusable rockets. People said it was impossible to land a booster and fly it again. It would break. It would cost too much. SpaceX crashed a few, then they landed one, then they landed 10. Now they land almost every time. That lowered the cost of getting to space. That lower cost is the key to this whole plan. If launching is expensive, you cannot put data centers in orbit. It costs too much to lift the heavy hardware. But Starship is designed to carry 200 tons at a time, and it is designed to fly every day. If the launch cost drops low enough, the math changes. Suddenly, putting solar panels and servers in space is cheaper than fighting for land permits on Earth. This is the technical breakthrough that most people miss. It is not about one magic invention. It is about the cost curve. When the price of lifting weight drops, new business models open up. Space solar power has been a dream for 50 years. It failed because rockets were too expensive. Now, with Starship, it is becoming a business plan. Let's talk about the risks. Building things in space is hard. Radiation eats electronics. If a server breaks, you cannot send a repair truck. You have to design it to fix itself or be cheap enough to replace. SpaceX is good at this. They treat satellites like ammunition. If one breaks, they launch another one. They build them on an assembly line, not in a lab. They will apply that same logic to orbital computers. Build a lot of them. Expect some to fail. Let the network handle the load. It is a numbers game, and SpaceX knows how to play numbers. This merger also cleans up a messy situation. Elon Musk owned parts of both companies. He also runs Tesla. There was money moving between them. Tesla invested $2 billion in xAI in January. Then a month later, SpaceX bought xAI. That left Tesla owning a piece of a private rocket company. It is complicated. There were lawsuits. People worry about conflicts. But from a sheer business view, the consolidation makes sense. It aligns the goals. Now, the rocket engineers and the AI engineers work for the same stock price. They share the same bank account. It removes the friction of negotiating contracts between two separate firms. Think about the user side. If you use the X app, formerly Twitter, you notice the changes. The feed feels faster, the search is smarter. That is Grok working in the background. Grok is the AI model from xAI. It feeds on the live data from X. This is a unique advantage. Most AI models learn from old data. They read the internet from last year. Grok reads the internet from 5 seconds ago. When news breaks, X is usually the first place it appears. That means Grok knows about the world in real time. By owning xAI, and the satellite network, SpaceX controls the flow of information from the source to the user. They do not have to ask permission from anyone else. They do not have to pay API fees to another company. They own the pipe. This brings us to the IPO rumors. For a long time, SpaceX stayed private. They did not want the headache of public shareholders. But a valuation of $1.25 trillion changes things. It is hard for employees to sell stock when the price is that high. An IPO lets them cash out. It also brings in massive amounts of capital. If SpaceX goes public in mid-2026, it would likely be the biggest offering in history. It would give them a war chest of cash. They could use that money to build even more Starships. They could speed up the Mars plans, and Mars is the real long game here. Everything SpaceX does points to Mars. You need rockets to get there. You need satellites to talk back to Earth. You need AI to run the systems when humans are asleep. And you need a way to pay for it all. Selling internet on Earth pays for the rockets to Mars. Selling AI services pays for the systems to run the colony. It is a loop. The money from one business funds the next. The technology from one business helps the next. Consider the robots. Tesla is building the Optimus robot. It needs a brain. That brain is being trained by xAI. Those robots will likely be the first workers on Mars. They will build the landing pads and the habitats. They need to work without constant instructions from Earth. The signal delay to Mars is up to 20 minutes. You cannot joystick a robot with that lag. It has to think for itself. That is why the AI piece is so critical. It is not just about chatbots. It is about autonomy. It is about machines that can operate in dangerous places without human help. Whether that place is an oil rig on Earth or a crater on Mars, the tech is the same. The pattern here is vertical integration. That is a fancy word for making everything yourself. Most companies buy parts, they buy software, they rent servers. SpaceX builds the engine, they write the code, they weld the steel. This gives them control. If a supplier is late, you are late. If you are the supplier, you control the schedule. You can see this in how they handle failures. When a Starship explodes, they do not spend a year writing a report. They sweep up the pieces, they look at the data, they fix the problem, they launch again. This rapid iteration is their secret weapon. Other companies try to be perfect on paper first. SpaceX prefers to test in the real world. The merger with xAI fits this pattern. Instead of waiting for another AI company to build what they need, they just bought the team. Now they can direct the research. They can say, focus on rocket flight paths, or focus on satellite routing. They do not have to beg for features. Let's look at the competitive scoreboard. Who else is doing this? Blue Origin builds rockets. They have big plans, but they do not have a global satellite network yet. They do not have a top-tier AI model. Google has AI, but they do not have rockets. Amazon has satellites and AI, but they rely on other companies to launch them. SpaceX stands alone in having all the pieces operational. They are not PowerPoints. They are real hardware. You can see the satellites in the sky at night. You can watch the rockets launch every few days. The AI is live in the app. The gap between SpaceX and everyone else is widening. This does not mean they cannot fail. They are taking huge risks. Managing a company this big is hard. Keeping the culture focused is hard. And the technical challenges of space compute are real. Heat is a killer for electronics. Keeping thousands of computers running in a vacuum is not easy. But they have solved hard problems before. They figured out how to keep fuel cold in space. They figured out how to dock ships automatically. They figured out how to make internet work on a moving plane. The financial pressure is also real. Even with Starlink money, the Mars plan will cost trillions. They need the AI bet to pay off. They need Grok to become a major revenue source. They need companies to pay for orbital compute. If those markets do not grow, the burn rate could become a problem again. However, the trend is in their favor. The world wants more data. It wants more intelligence. It wants faster answers. And the Earth is running out of easy ways to provide that. We are hitting the limits of our power grids. We are hitting the limits of our zoning laws. Moving the heavy lifting to space is a logical next step. It is like moving heavy industry out of the city. You put the noisy, power-hungry stuff where it does not bother anyone. Then you just ship the finished product back. In this case, the product is answers. The sheer scale of the Starlink network allows for things we haven't even seen yet. Think about a global sensor network. Thousands of cameras and detectors looking at Earth. They can track weather, they can spot fires, they can monitor crops. With AI on board, they can analyze what they see instantly. They can send an alert the moment a fire starts, not hours later. That kind of real-time awareness is valuable. Governments will pay for it. Shipping companies will pay for it. Farmers will pay for it. It turns the network into a utility, like water or electricity. And because SpaceX builds the satellites so cheaply, they can upgrade them fast. Most satellites stay up for 15 years. Starlink satellites stay up for about 5. That sounds wasteful, but it means the technology is always new. They can put the latest chips in orbit every few years. They can adapt to new needs faster than anyone else. This speed of replacement scares competitors. If you spend 10 years building a satellite, you are launching old technology. SpaceX launches next week's technology. It is the difference between a flip phone and a smartphone. The acquisition of xAI also secures the talent. AI engineers are the most sought-after people in tech right now. They can work anywhere. They go where the compute is. By promising them a playground of orbital data centers and the biggest rockets in history, SpaceX attracts the best brains. It is a recruiting tool. Come work here and put your code on Mars. That is a pitch Google cannot make. That is a pitch OpenAI cannot make. It appeals to a certain kind of engineer, the kind that wants to build the impossible. So where does this leave us in 2026? We have a company valued at $1.25 trillion. It controls the path to orbit. It controls the global internet mesh. It controls a leading AI brain. And it is run by a team that moves faster than regulators can read the paperwork. The deal in February was the moment the pieces locked together. It was the moment SpaceX stopped being just a transportation company. It became a platform for the future economy. Other companies will try to copy this. They will try to merge. They will try to partner. But building this kind of hardware takes time. You cannot download a rocket. You cannot code a satellite factory. You have to build it with concrete and steel. SpaceX has a 10-year head start on the physical side. They have a massive lead on the launch cadence. They flew nearly 150 times last year. Their closest rival flew maybe a dozen times. That volume gives them data. It gives them practice. It drives down costs. Every time they fly, the system gets smarter. Now with xAI, the system literally gets smarter. The data from the engines, the flight paths, the weather, it all feeds the model. The model finds efficiencies humans miss. It trims fuel use. It optimizes trajectories. It predicts maintenance needs. This creates a flywheel effect. Better tech means cheaper flights. Cheaper flights mean more satellites. More satellites mean more data. More data means better AI. Better AI means better tech. The wheel spins faster and faster. That is what the valuation represents. It is not just the assets they have today. It is the speed of the flywheel. Investors are betting that nobody can catch up. They are betting that SpaceX will become the operating system for the solar system. It sounds like science fiction, but look at the numbers. Look at the launch manifest. Look at the user growth. It is happening in plain sight. The rockets are real. The satellites are real. The checks clearing the bank are real. The merger was the final piece of the puzzle. It brought the brain into the body. Now the machine is complete. It has hands to build, legs to travel, eyes to see, and a mind to think. For the rest of the industry, this is a wake-up call. The era of slow space is over. The era of dumb satellites is over. The standard has been raised. If you cannot launch cheap, connect globally, and compute instantly, you are fighting a losing battle. SpaceX has defined the new baseline. And they did it by ignoring the old rules. They did not wait for permission. They did not wait for grants. They built a product people wanted to buy, and they used the profit to build the next thing. Starlink was the bridge. It proved that space could generate revenue, not just consume it. Now xAI is the turbocharger. It takes that infrastructure and makes it intelligent. The future of AI is not just in a server room in Virginia. It is drifting overhead right now at 17,000 miles per hour. It is powered by the sun. It is cooled by the void. And it is connected to everything. That is the vision. It is bold. It is risky. But it is built on a foundation of results. SpaceX has delivered on its promises before. They delivered the reusable rocket. They delivered the mega constellation. Now they are delivering the orbital brain. The $1.25 trillion number is just the market catching up to reality. The reality that the ceiling has been lifted. The limits of Earth no longer apply to the growth of intelligence. We are watching the birth of a true space-based economy. Not just flags and footprints, but data, power, and compute. It is an industrial revolution happening above our heads, and it is moving at the speed of light. This is why the February deal matters. It wasn't just a merger, it was a declaration that the future will be vertically integrated, and it will be built by the company that owns the sky. The path is clear, the hardware is ready, the funding is secured. The only thing left is to execute. And if history is any guide, execution is what SpaceX does best. The machine is running, the flywheel is spinning, and the world is watching to see just how fast it can go.